Chapter 27. The Saturnian antelope, Sixt. Its purpose and creation hints. The reasons for hunting Sixt. Fraud with secret remedy. The animal which we shall discuss next is named Sixt, or in the language of earth, pointed foot, or piercing foot, and it is native only to this planet. In the order of animals, it is approximately on the same level as the antelope on Earth. Its habitat on Saturn is only on the highest mountains. Why is it called pointed foot? Do not think that this animal has 4 pointed spears in place of the actual jointed feet. It is called pointed foot because on its front feet, in the area of the usual members above the claws, it has no member. Instead, it has a straight horn which is sharply pointed downwards. At the same time, this claw extends from the area of the knee as a completely solid claw. The hind legs of this animal are like the legs of any other animal. However, the claws are not split, but are very pointed. These are the reasons for this animal's name. What does this animal otherwise look like? Among the larger animals on Earth, there is none which is like this one. There are some similarities, however, among the smaller animals. The main body of this animal resembles the body of an otter. The tail resembles the tail of an ox. The neck and head have a close resemblance to a tiger. But the teeth resemble those of a graminivorous animal. At the crown of its head, it has a single horn which is somewhat bent back. This is a description of this animal's shape, other than its size and color. What is the size of this animal? If you were to measure its size in accordance with earthly measurements, you would not find one animal on Earth with which this pointed foot would compare. Because on Saturn the ratio of everything is at least 100 times larger, and at times even more. This pointed foot belongs to the smaller animals, and barely measures 1/3 in size of the previous animal, which we have come to know as the lion of this planet. This is also the reason why it is easy for every human being on Saturn, after the Sixt has been caught, to carry it home on one's back. What are the colors of this animal? The main color is a dazzling white, but from the head to the tail, it has a wide light blue stripe. Towards the abdomen, this animal is golden yellow, while at the feet the color changes to reddish, except for the pointed claws, which are completely black, as well as the horn on the head. The underside of the neck, starting at the lower jaw right to the chest, is striped dark red. Now you have the complete shape of this animal, which cannot be found in this manner on any other planet. What is this animal's usefulness? What is its nourishment? Do the Saturnites capture many of these animals? As far as its usefulness is concerned, it is of no more importance to the Saturnites than a chamois or an antelope to the people on earth. But nevertheless, it has its place in the order of things, which it unknowingly occupies usefully. Who knows the usefulness of the chamois on earth? Who can give you the reason why this animal climbs the mountains? But to whomever wishes to know, I shall disclose the reason. You are aware that all kinds of mosses, as well as species of plants, grow on the high mountains of earth for the purpose of dissolving the rocks. You also know that moss and plants are products of spiritual potencies and spiritual intelligences. It becomes abundantly clear that they are such products when, within them, some kind of intelligent life has begun to express itself. Once life begins to express itself, it does not do so to relapse again into death, but instead to strengthen itself by developing into a form, in order to leave that form and pass over into a higher one. Which life-expressing form in the Alps or mountains are above these small living forms of moss, grass, and all other alpine or mountain plants? These are, of course, the animals of the mountains. They are the higher life forms into which the plant life of the high mountain regions passes over. You can easily understand that this is the proper sequence of events, because the life of the animals is maintained by incorporating the life of the plants. And that is why nourishing oneself from food which is compatible with the nature of the animal is nothing more but to absorb and unite the scattered life of the lower, smaller potencies to a higher, more complete life. In other words, to nourish oneself means to gather and absorb the life in a container that continuously emanates from me, so that it becomes stronger and more complete from level to level on its return to the primary source from whence it came. If you comprehend what has just been said to some degree, you can then apply this concept to the Sixt. Transfer the same quality to the pointed foot, and you will know everything there is to know about this particular aspect. There is another question which needs to be answered, namely, whether the Saturnites capture this animal. My answer to this question is that, at times, the very courageous Saturnites often go out and attempt to capture this animal, but very rarely are they successful, because this animal is so skillful in climbing the highest mountain peaks of this planet that none of the human beings are able to follow it. This animal also has the ability, on account of its pointed claws, to stand on an area no larger than the palm of a hand. Where the rocks turn into rugged peaks, there no longer exists any possibility for the huge Saturn beings to continue their hunt. When such an animal tumbles down from a high and steep mountain peak and makes such a fateful fall, which happens very rarely, this is the only time that it can be captured, if this place is accessible to a human being. So far, not one human being on Saturn has captured the pointed foot. You might question that if this animal is so hard to capture, why do the Saturnites make the effort? They are compelled to do so by a kind of superstition. On Earth, this type of superstition falls into the category of so-called medicinal quackery. Because this animal nourishes itself from the most powerful and most fragrant herbs, the Saturnites are of the opinion that its meat must be so very healthy that the one who eats it, even when it is very little, will become immortal. There is not much difference between the Saturnites, who know all kinds of remedies through which they believe they can perpetuate their lives, and the people on Earth when it comes to this type of medical belief. However, experience teaches us on a daily basis that the death of the body cannot be halted. What do these people do in spite of their daily experiences, which prove their remedies continuously without effect? They place the remedy into an extraordinarily secretive category of their restorative science by saying, "This remedy must be administered exactly at midnight and in an exact dosage. 1,000th grain," note 1 grain is 2 drops of water, or the size of 1 peppercorn, more or less makes the remedy ineffective. Should this explanation not suffice, they confuse the matter further and seek refuge in the influence of the constellations. Then these mystical, life-extending medical practitioners advise their clientele, with great and highly unintelligible eloquence, as to which quarter the moon must be in, and into which constellation the sun must pass, and they say that this has to occur exactly at midnight. If, for example, the sun is not in the sign of Leo at midnight, and the moon is not in Capricorn at the same time, and if a certain planet does not pass into a certain sign and another planet into another sign of the zodiac at the same time, then the eternal life remedy is powerless and ineffective. Gullible people usually believe in such mystical preachers of wisdom or wiseacres, and by costly remedies which are heralded as providing eternal life. Once these people are in possession of such an eternal remedy, they look in all kinds of calendars or ephemerides to find out when the moon, the sun, and the rest of the planets enter into the predetermined signs exactly at midnight. You can see that even without any particular knowledge in mathematics, these astronomical and astrological transitions and relationships as to the signs of the zodiac will never occur. And if they should occur, it might happen once in a million or several million years, and not exactly in the manner that the remedy prescribes. Therefore, the effectiveness of such an eternal life-bringing remedy completely neutralizes itself in accordance with this mystically cunning speculation. Under these circumstances, the seller of these remedies escapes liability, because he can make the claim that the remedy was not taken in accordance with the instructions. On Saturn, the meat of the Sixt is used in a similar manner for a similar purpose. However, when the remedy does not produce the desired effects, then the life-prolonging doctors on Saturn use the excuse that the person using the remedy was somewhat careless and, instead of taking it during the time of the shadow of the ring, must have taken it during the sunlight. And under such circumstances the remedy is ineffective. Should a relative of a departed person complain to such a life doctor and mention the fact that the departed did take the remedy at the time of the shadow of the ring, then the doctor will question the relative as to the position of the moons. Should the relative be able to provide this information, then the position of the moons comes into question and is considered by the doctor as highly unfavourable for the remedy, and he explains why this is so with the greatest eloquence. Most people cannot answer questions as to the position of the moons or planets. This then becomes an escape clause for the eternal life-bringer. It may also happen that a relative of a departed person who has taken such life-bringing remedy consults yet another of those life-bringing doctors regarding the fact that the remedy was ineffective. In a situation like that, you can well imagine what this life-bringing doctor will say about the useless remedy of his colleague. "Why did you not come to me? It is well known that this doctor uses the wrong kinds of remedies." And in order to convince this person that the deceased must have been given the wrong remedy, he shows him a remedy that has a different colour. That usually convinces the person making the inquiries as to why the other remedy was ineffective. In these situations, the relative of the departed mostly goes back to the original doctor, whom he now considers to be a charlatan. How does such a doctor get out of a situation like that? The doctor takes the person who demands accountability to neighbours minded like himself and likewise informed, and says to the person who demands accountability, "See, these people have used my remedy properly. Ask them how old they are." Should he then question them as to their age, he will usually get an answer which far exceeds even the age of a person that has achieved a very old age. Usually this is done by not mentioning the number of years, but expressing things through extraordinary facts, such as experiences which they had during their long life, which are to be proof. For example, such a person might mention that he remembers well that a certain mountain did not exist at a given time. Another one might say, by pointing to a light white stripe on the firmament, that he saw when the Great Spirit spanned that ring across the firmament. Another one might say that he remembers the time when there was no moon on the firmament. Each person who is questioned about his age has a better reason to prove his age than did his predecessor. When the person who demanded proof hears these testimonials, he is usually satisfied with these explanations and might, in addition, even buy another remedy from such a doctor, who is not any older than his neighbours. This is all the information which is necessary to know about this particular animal. Let us now turn to another animal on this celestial body, which is not tame, and then we will begin with the domestic animals.